All right, so we're going to go ahead and get this started, everybody. First of all, you probably heard it, but I am recording this. Just to let you know, if you have strong feelings that you don't want this recorded, just let me know and I'll turn it off. Just want to record it for those appraisers who weren't able to join us at this time so that I can send them out this recording afterwards and they can watch it whenever they have time. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, my name is Brandon Rich. I'm with Choice Valuation, and we are the creators of Spark. Actually, let me take you to this page. You should be looking at our Spark for Appraisers website right now, where it says, see if Spark works in your area. So Spark is basically our data importing, market analysis, and now cost data tool, which we just recently added cost data a few weeks ago or a month ago. So now we have cost data provided by dwelling costs. So if you like it, then you can cancel whatever cost subscription you have to Marshall and Swift or dwelling cost or whoever it is, and we have basically paid for your cost subscription for you, for all of our paying customers. So let's go ahead and start with the beginning here. Basically, the first thing we did when we built Spark was we made it as a comp importing tool. So just to let you guys know, I didn't preface everything with this, but I am a real estate appraiser, like I'm sure all of you are. I have been appraising in the Phoenix market for around 13 years, give or take. And I basically, around 4 years ago, I created a little spreadsheet just for myself, just to use for manipulating market analysis, or market data, I should say, so I can analyze my market the way I wanted to, rather than just relying on the 1004 MC. And I gave it to a few appraiser friends. They really liked it. They thought it was cool, and they told me I should try selling it. So I actually put that in the Alamo Total Store, and it did really well there. So I decided maybe I can make something else. And the other thing that I really wanted was a really easy to use and fast data importer. You can use actually Alamo's worksheet tab to do some of that, but it has quite a few limitations. So I wanted to be able to build something to do that. And so I basically made Spark, not by myself, with help. And so that's what this is. It was originally designed as a data importing tool, and then it kind of merged and grew into something a lot bigger. So let's go ahead and show you essentially how it works here. So I'm just going to go to the Spark website. It's spark.choicevaluation.com. You go to that website, and it will take you to a page like this. And the first time you go there, it's going to ask you to sign up. You'll give it basically just your basic information, your ACI or a la mode information, and then you get started right into it. And it has a tutorial that walks you through everything. I know you're here because you want to kind of see how it works and if it's for you, and that's awesome. But when you guys get into using it, if you feel like you missed something during this webinar, or if you have other questions, of course you can feel free to call us, but there's a tutorial that'll walk you through the whole process. And also over here in the top right, we have this gear icon, and wherever you are, it has context-sensitive help. So right here, I'm about to load in my sales grid information, so it had the grid help. So I can click on that, and it actually has several videos. They're like 2 to 4 minute videos on how to do each of these things, or how to take advantage of that feature in Spark. And it does the same thing on the market analysis side and on the cost data side as well. Just a bunch of separate videos on each feature. Okay, and of course you can call us or email us anytime, and we're happy to help you. We also have a private Facebook group that's just for customer support, so you can go there, ask your question, and you'll get a response from us, and also a response from your fellow appraisers that are using Spark. Okay, so first thing, before I actually start using Spark, I'm just going to show you essentially how it works in your MLS. So basically what you're going to do in your MLS, and I'm going to tell you 2 different ways to do this, and really you can do this with whatever method works best with your particular workflow. So in Spark, you have the ability to upload basically 3 different files of data, or actually more. I'm not going to get into the 4th one because I don't want to confuse everything right now, but those 3 main files, one of them is optional. You don't really need to do it. And the other 2 you do need to do if you want the full take advantage of everything Spark does. So the first one is the big search you do in your MLS. So you can see I'm hovered. Here, let me click in here. So I'm hovered over this big polygon. It's this big yellow area that you see, and that's what I defined as my neighborhood boundaries on page 1 of my report. So everything in my neighborhood boundaries, I did a search for that. I got all the single-family homes in that area because I'm appraising a single-family home, and I did actually a two-year search for that. Now you can do a 1-year search, a 2-year, anything up to 10 years, and Spark is limited to 10,000 pieces of data. Now, keep in mind, this is what I'm talking about right now is not for your sales grid. This is going to be for a market analysis. And I'm not talking about right now your competing properties. I'm talking about all the single family homes in the area. So what I would do is I go into my MLS and I would export a file that has all these properties in it. So I click export. Now I know your MLS is going to look a little bit different. If you're in a matrix system, you scroll down to the bottom and there's a blue export button. And in your MLS, there may be a custom setup you have to do. It's a one-time setup. It usually takes about 5 minutes. I'm happy to help you out with that if you need help with it. But there usually is that one-time setup, but not in all MLSs. Some don't. Like the Southern California MLS does not have a custom setup like that you have to do. It just works. Okay, so I chose Spark, and I've got all my 1,500 records, and I'm going to hit export. All right, so that's going. So now I'm going to go back to my search results, and now I'm going to customize this to just my competing properties, what I, the appraiser, say is competing with my subject property. So I just have these things predefined in here. I'm just going to choose these. 1 story in that year built range, in this GLA range. And also, I don't want to get everything in this entire neighborhood area. I just want to get the stuff right in my immediate area that's most competing. So I'm going to get rid of the big polygon there and just use this small one. You do that however you want to, though. And so I've basically limited everything to the area I wanted to grab, and I've got 75 properties. Keep in mind, and this is all status types, so it includes canceled, expired, off market, closed, active pending, contingent, everything. And I got all those, and I also got it back going over 2 years here, just because I wanted to show you that you can analyze more data if you want to. Now I'm going to hit export, and I'm going to export that file. And give me 1 second to do that in here. I have one of the least efficient MLS systems for exporting. Okay, so now that's working. And now the last file I want to get. So far I have 2 files right here. I've got the big one that had all the properties in it, and then this one, which is just the competing properties. And now I'm going to get my last file, which is going to be the properties I actually want to load into my grid. So I'm going to grab an active, a pending, and let's just grab the what is it? Maybe 5 or 6 most recent sales. Let's grab more, actually. Okay, I got 10 there. Why not grab more? Okay, 12 properties. Now I'm going to hit export, and I'm going to make sure and select that I just want those 12. And I'm going to choose Spark again. Okay. All right, so at this point, oh, I'm sorry, I must have typed in the code wrong. Again, back to this being a really inefficient system. Okay, there we go. So I've got my 3 files. The big file with all the single family homes, this one, which just has the competing properties, and then this one, which is just those competing properties that I chose to load into my grid. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that this 746 South Roca is my subject property. Let's say I'm doing an appraisal for on a pending sale. For a purchase. Okay, so now I'm going to go into Spark, which is this website, and I'm going to choose my effective date. So this is Spark, starting off Spark right here. Let's just say it's today. And now this is where I upload my file that has my comparables. This is for my actual sales grid. You can see right here, it's in white. It's got the dots around it. I'm on the grid section. So that's what I'm loading in, and that's this file right here. All I do is I click this, drag it up, and I drop it on. And now Spark is translating that information from my MLS. It's also grabbing the public records information and translating that, and now it's done. Now I can hit next. I could also upload my subject. So like I said, we were going to use that 746 South Roca as my subject, but let's say you're doing an appraisal for a refi, subject has never been listed. I could click type here, and it would allow me to type in the parcel number or address right here, and it would go grab that property's public records information, so I could load in some of the information into my grid, including prior transfer history and all that stuff. Or I could also upload a separate listing. So I can go back into my MLS, just do one search just for that subject listing and upload that right here. For now, I'm just going to hit next. Okay, so here is the grid now, and I've got all these properties loaded in. There was 12 of them, and I'm going to use 746 South Roca as my subject. Now, to do that, it's actually pretty quick and easy. I just click this, hold my mouse button down, and I drag it up to where it says plus subject, add subject, and I drop it on. And now Spark has translated that, turned it into my subject, and now I've got 11 comps here. And then just to show you, let's say you had uploaded, I know these aren't, there's one listing and then a couple sales here, but let's just say these 3 are listings, and your client for this particular report asked you to do an REO addenda. So what you can actually do is take those 3 properties and drag them right up to where it says REO listings. And then what Spark is going to do is it's going to create that REO addenda in your report and also load those 3 properties into that REO addenda. If the REO addenda is already in your report, obviously it won't load it in. It'll just add the 3 properties to that addenda. Okay, so that's the basics of loading in your grid. Now you can see there's a few, maybe 3 other things I want to cover. I don't want to spend too much time on it. There's a lot I could go into, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. So first is anything in red means there's a discrepancy between MLS and public records. So right here, if I hover my mouse over this 2083, it shows me comp 4 shows 2,083 square feet from MLS and 1,432 from public records. Now, it's put the 2083 in here because I chose for it to default to my MLS data, but I can also change that in Spark to default to my public records. And if I want to switch it over to the public records, I just hover my mouse over it and click on public records, and now it's switched over. By the way, all of this data regarding discrepancies and MLS and public records data, that's all going to go into my digital work file as well, so you don't have to worry about having to remember this, and you remember that you chose one over the other. Okay, so that's the red items. Those are where there's discrepancies. You can see right here when I hover over parking, it shows me the parking discrepancy. Public records apparently says there's a carport, but it doesn't know how many, and MLS says there is no carport. So, okay, so that's that. And then the other thing I wanted to cover is the prior transfer history information. So prior transfer history information, you can see this bottom row of the grid here. It just says prior transfer history, and I can click on that and change the settings on how things are loaded in. Right now you can see it's putting in all the transfers for the subject in the past 36 months and all the transfers of everything else in the past 12 months. Or at least 12 months prior to the current sale, if it's a sale in here. So, and then if I want to, I can actually look at what Spark is putting into the report. So I can click on a magnifying glass, and I can see, all right, this one, it transferred in October of 2017. My current sale is this one. There's the prior transfer. There's a green checkbox next to it, meaning it's loading that in. If for some reason I also wanted to load in these transfers from 1999, I can just click them, and Spark will load those into my report as well. For now, though, they're just going into my work file, but this one is going to go into my report. And then I can hit next comp, and I can scroll through and look at all my comps. This one, there is no transfer in the past 12 months, so it's not putting it in. Just so you know, I know there's some appraisers who like to, for example, let's just take this as an example. Even though this transfer is over 12 months old, they do want that to go into the report, just to let the client know that you did the research, you put all the transfers in, just to make sure there's no mistake that you did verify the most recent transfer information. So there is a setting in Spark where you can tell it to load in this most recent transfer even though it's over 12 months old. Okay, so that's that information. And then the last thing I wanted to go over on this section of the grid is the settings. So everything over here on the left that's in blue is something I can click on to customize the way that data is going to go into my report. So for example, if I don't like these settings for forced warm air, central air, these abbreviations that are in here for heating and cooling, I just click on heating and cooling, and I'll get a list of every single type of heating and cooling option my MLS has for an agent to enter in, and I can change what it's going to be loaded into the grid as. So if, for example, I never want EVAP to go into my report at all, I can just blank that out, and that means it won't put that in. If instead of FWA, I want FAU, I can do that. And then I hit Save Changes when I like it when it's set up how I like, and then I hit take me back. And now you can see that it's changed over to FAU. And that is saved now, so the next time I go to use Spark, I don't have to change that again. It will remember my settings. That applies to every feature here. So, for example, these bottom three, below porch, patio, deck, I call them the miscellaneous lines of the grid where you can kind of put in what you want. I have it set right now in mine to load in pool features, exterior features, and parcel ID or parcel number. You don't like those, you just click on them, change them, turn them off, however you want to do it. And then the last thing I want to talk about here, I did mention it a little bit briefly, but I can click on, so let's say lot size, site size. I'm going to click on that, and I can say my data source preference. Right now it's set to public records. I could change it to MLS. So if, for example, I always want to trust what the agent enters in for lot size for some reason, then I can choose that right here. Or I can turn the line off and just make it so lot size is always blank. And then I can also, right now, the MLS/public record comparison is turned on. Yes means it's turned on. If I want that turned off, meaning it will never highlight in red when there's a discrepancy between MLS and public records, it'll just use my choice. I can choose to turn that off by just clicking no. That way it never highlights in red. That might be handy for certain features where you just never want to even know what public records has to say about something. So for example, in my area, a lot of times the patios are rarely accurate in public records. So you can see there's a couple here that are red. If I just want to turn that off so it never uses public records, it never highlights in red, it just uses the MLS, I just turn off that comparison, hit save changes, take me back, and now you'll see those patios they're no longer red. It's just putting in what I have for MLS. Okay. So that is that, and I didn't mention it, but I can drag comps around. So if I want to change comp positions, I can do that pretty quick and easily. I can also load in rentals listings. You can see there's a plus button here. So if I want to add more of any one of these, I just click it, and it gives me an option to upload another file for those. I could also choose to type something in. So if I just want to type in, like if I'm for some reason I want to use a FSBO for sale by owner, I can click this, type in the address or parcel number, and Spark will go grab the data for that property from public records. Okay, so that covers the grid. Now let's go into the cost data. Why not? Right? So this is a relatively new feature in Spark, as I mentioned. It's been around for less than a month. So first thing is I can click to get the data from my grid. So I'm going to grab that subject information from my grid. It fills in as much as it can. It knows there's a garage. I have a setting that says for every garage bay, add 200 square feet. Now, obviously, for my subject, I am going to, in most cases, I'm going to know, oops, sorry about that. I'm going to know the size of my garage, so I don't need to use the setting. So I'm going to type in whatever the exact number is. And then if there's a patio, I just click, OK, covered patio. I have a default setting, but I can change that to 180 square feet, pick the quality that I want it to have. And then also I need to make sure and type in my quality for the overall dwelling. And so if you're ever unsure, you just hover over any of these eyes, and it shows you the different quality ratings. So I'm going to hover over this eye. Sorry about that. And it's going to show me the different quality ratings. And if I'm ever unsure, like, is my house really a 4.0 or a 3.0, I can always click here for the detailed quality information. It takes me to the site for dwelling costs, where they actually go into detail on each quality level. So I can go down to quality level 4 and scroll through these example images of what a quality level 4 home would be. And okay, yeah, I think mine's probably somewhere between 3 and 4. So let's go back to Spark. I'm going to put in 3.5. Whoops, sorry about that. Put in 3.5. And these go in tenths of a number. So I can say 3.7 or 3.9 or however I want to do it. Okay, so let's say I got everything there. I think my effective age, the reason you would want to use this is for Spark to calculate the using the age life or the straight line method. So I'm going to put in, let's say, 12 years. And that just basically uses, if I hover over this eye, it tells me the math, but it's basically the effective age divided by the lifespan. Right now, lifespan is set to 60, but I can click on physical depreciation, and I can change that lifespan to whatever number I want it to be. It's basically the entire economic lifespan or the entire economic age of a property. Okay, so it's going to do that, and it calculated it 12 divided by 60. It gives me the 20%. Now I just hit Get Cost Data. It pulls that from dwelling cost. By the way, as I think I mentioned, we get all our cost data from dwelling cost. So now it's filled it out. I've got these little eye icons here, which show me the breakdown of the information and what's all going into it. It just basically tells me all the math going into it, and I've got my as-is value of site improvements. Now, this is something, I have a setting that says always make this defaulted to 5,000, and then from there I can customize it so I can make it whatever I want to. Indirect costs, if you want to add in entrepreneurial incentive or something, you put that there, and then site value. Now, it's not in here yet, but pretty soon we are going to include an ability to for Spark to help you get your site value using both extraction and allocation. That should be added by early February is when that will be in there. So just a few more weeks here, 2 or 3 more weeks actually. Okay, so I've got that done. So now I'm going to go ahead and go over to the 1004MC. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to load in my competing properties. Now, if you remember, this one right here was my big file that has everything. In Spark, we call this the neighborhood file. So that's this one. And then this one was my competing properties. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, click it, and drag it up here, and then let go of my mouse button. There we go, and then do the same thing here. Click and drag it up to the plus sign for neighborhood properties. It's going to translate that information. Okay, and it's ready to go. Now, as I mentioned, there is another type of file you can upload, alternative. I'm not going to go over it here, but it's basically if you wanted to upload some other type of data. So here, let's go back to MLS. So for example, if I wanted to maybe, let's say I had to use a comp from the other side of the highway, and I just wanted to find out what are properties similar to mine, but on the other side of the highway, are they selling for a different amount? I can go and do a search for those properties, and then I can upload that to Spark as an alternative property, and then I can have Spark run some analysis on that data. So it can tell me like what the median price difference is, or the price per square foot difference, or whatever it is I want to know. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And then here you can see, so what Spark does is it, and I should have mentioned this before, but I didn't, is the neighborhood file that I uploaded to Spark, which is the big one that has all the single family homes, or if I'm doing a condo, it'd have all the condos. That's the one that Spark uses to fill out your low, high, and predominant numbers for the top of page 1. Now, Fannie Mae does state that they want you to use all the single family homes in your defined neighborhood, or all the condos, or all the multifamily homes in your defined neighborhood. But some appraisers I know that I talk to still like to use just their competing properties, and that's okay. If you just want to use your competing properties, then when you uploaded those files, instead of uploading this big one, you would just upload this one twice. So this competing one, you would upload that to competing and to neighborhood, if that's how you wanted to handle it. The advantage, though, well, one, it's what Fannie Mae wants if you want to follow Fannie Mae's guidelines. And two, the other advantage of uploading this bigger set of data is you can also have Spark run some other analysis on that. So you can kind of see what your competing properties are doing versus what your whole neighborhood's doing. And I'll show you that in a second here. So next, you've got the numbers for the top of page 2, or it'd be page 3 if it was a condo. Then I've got the 1004MC data. Obviously, nothing special here. Most software will throw in your 1004MC numbers. Even most MLSs will do that now. But the big advantage here to Spark, and it's kind of the basis of how we built it, is we wanted to not just give you the 1004MC data, but let you see, as you're deciding to go and hover over these checkboxes to make your decision on whether the market's increasing, stable, or declining, we show you the data that you want to see. And so obviously, you saw these 3 cards. We call these cards pop up here, where there's 2 blue and 1 red. One of them says plus 0.5%, the other is negative 0.5%, and then the one on the right is plus 1.0% per month. So what that's telling me is if I look at that one at the top left, the plus 0.5, it says at the top, competing data over 12 months, and that's looking at median sale price. The next one, the middle card, that one's the exact same thing. It's looking at competing data over 12 months, but it's looking at median price per square foot. So based on price per square foot, things are actually going down a little bit, and based on median price alone, things are going up a little bit. And what that would tell me as an appraiser is, okay, well, it looks like things might be going up a little bit, but what that might mean is that people are maybe just buying slightly bigger houses, because when I look at the price per square foot, it's actually going down a little bit. So that's what that might tell me. I mean, I might have to dig in a little bit deeper, but that's what it might tell me right now. And then the red card, you can see it's analyzing my neighborhood data. So that one is looking at the entire, this one right here, that big set of data we uploaded that had 1,500 properties in it. It's looking at the past 12 months of data for that data set, that big one, and it's looking at price per square foot. So basically that right card, the red one, and the middle one are analyzing the exact same information, but one is using competing data and one is using neighborhood data. And then the two on the left, or the middle and the left one, they're looking at basically the exact same data, but the one on the left is median price, and the one on the right is price per square foot. So anyways, that's how I had it set up to look at this, just kind of for this presentation, but you can set it up to look at data however you want. So if you don't care about price per square foot, then don't have Spark analyze it. If you want to see what things are doing over the past 2 years, you set it up that way. So just to kind of give you an example here. So when I want to customize something, and by the way, this applies to every checkbox. So as I go and hover over to check whether seller concessions are prevalent, it shows me 54.5% of sales had concessions. So I can say, yeah, okay, that's prevalent. So I'm going to click that. And then here, foreclosures, 0% were REO. So I'm going to say, no, they're not prevalent. And then the same thing applies to every checkbox I could want to choose here. It shows me the actual data. And that also applies to the one-unit housing trends. It'll show me the data that I want to see. So when I hover over marketing time, it shows me my analysis that I wanted to do, which is my competing data, 36 days on market. That's definitely there. My housing supply, half a month, 0.5 months of supply, basically. I click shortage, and I'm just going to go ahead and click stable for that. And you know what, just for the sake of this, let's go ahead and click stable all the way before we go ahead and import this into my report. Oh, and I forgot, actually. I wanted to show you how you can go in and kind of customize this, because we got the comments in here, and you can also customize these comments, and the comments are built based on the type of analysis you're having Spark perform. Like these three cards here represent 3 different analyses. So, and I can have Spark build comments based on those analyses. So let's go ahead and look at median comparable sale price. So to customize these 3 cards, I can click on median comparable sale price, and that brings me to this screen where I can see this competing data card showing it's looking at median sale price. And then I have these other 2 cards. So basically, these are the equivalent of those 3 cards I saw on the other screen, the one on the left, the one in the middle, and the one on the right. So these right here are looking at 12 months of data by month in a bar chart, and it's competing data and neighborhood data. Now, if I want to customize anything, basically, just like I showed you in the grid where anything on the left that's in blue, you can click on to customize, Spark is like that everywhere. So anything in blue, basically, you can click on to either dive deeper into the numbers or to customize it. So first of all, let's just say I wanted to analyze 2 years of data instead of 12 months. So I just click on the 12 months, change that to 24, and there we go. I've got that, and it's by month. Let's say I want it by quarter. I just change that. Change it to quarter, or you know what, I actually want to just have it in a scatter plot, so I can click that, and there you have your scatter plot. And then if I want to further customize it, so let's say I actually, instead of using median price per square foot, I wanted to use average price per square foot. I click this card, it flips it over, and it allows me to further customize what's going on. So let's say it's median price per square foot. I want to change that, so I click on it. I change it to average price per square foot. And let's say I like that. And you know what? Maybe I want to exclude REOs or short sales. Now, in this particular case, I don't have any, I don't think. I mean, I know I don't have any REOs. I don't know if I have any short sales. But I can choose to also exclude certain data. So if I want to run, maybe on this chart I have all the data, and on this chart I have all the data minus foreclosures. So you can kind of see what the price difference is and if they're affecting price. That you can do right here. That's what this exclude button is for. Now, I'm not going to use it right now. And then here, I told you, you can build comments based on any analysis. So if I want to include the data regarding this analysis in my comments, then I just click this button. Including comments, you see this orange comment just appeared. It's orange letting me know that this card that I'm currently looking at is what's building this analysis, or I'm sorry, this sentence. So it says an analysis was performed on 43 competing properties over the past 24 months. The salesmen in this group had an average price per square foot of $133.25. Now, if I also wanted to include maybe the high and the low, I just click that. And there we go. It says average price per square foot of $133.25 with a low of that and a high of that. And then last, I can also include the regression result. And it shows you the regression result right here. It's going up. Things are going up at 0.6% a month. So if I want to include that in my comment, I just click that. And then it also adds on this little sentence that says, this analysis shows a change of plus 0.6% a month. So basically, hopefully, I've shown that you can kind of come in here, analyze data the way you want to. You can set it up and save it. Right here, you see this Save Layout button. It'll save that. So once you have it set up the way you like, including comments and analysis and all that stuff, then you save it, and it will work like that every time going forward until you decide to change it. So now we'll say I want to get rid of that, but I do want to keep that. Hit go back. All right. And then I can do the same thing with neighborhood data if I want to. If I want to change this to also show average, I just click on it, change this to average price per square foot, hit go back, and there we go. I've got my updated chart. And let's go ahead and change it to a quarterly chart. There we go. So that's the way this works. And then if you want the chart to go in your report, you select this checkbox. It says Include Chart and Report right there over here, Include Chart and Report. Now, if I decide I don't want it, I just turn it off. And if I want to include the chart, and I also, right on the chart, I want Spark to embed these numbers of how much things are going up or down, then I click this checkbox, which says Display Regression Result in Chart Legend. So if I want that on there, I just click that, and I am good to go. So now I can hit go back, and it reminds me I didn't save it. That's all right. I don't want to save that. And now I'm good to go. And by the way, any chart that's in any of these rows, Spark is going to load into your work file. Not all of them are going to go into your report, only the ones you choose, but all of them will go into your work file if you ever needed to go and defend one of your choices later on. So when you hover over these checkboxes, all these analyses like that negative 6.1, that's in a chart. I can click on it right here. That's in this chart, and that's going into my work file. So if anyone ever questions me, I've got this data right here, including a chart right in my work file that I can just copy and paste into my report if I ever wanted to. But you can see it's not going into my report right now. I don't have it checked. And I'll show you that once we actually go and throw the data into a report. Okay, so there's so much you can customize here. I don't want to spend too much more time on it, but the last thing I do want to tell you is you also have profiles that you can set up. So for example, if you have one particular client who likes you to analyze your market in some specific way, you can set yourself up with your standard profile, but then you can go ahead and go in here and switch over to some custom profile like Lender ABC. You name the profile Lender ABC, and then you customize it for that lender. So that way, anytime you do a report for that lender, you just click in here, you change it to that profile, and you're good to go. So for example, you can see I have one in here called Library Neighborhood. I click on that. I say, yep, I want to switch it over. And now it's switched over to that profile. So now when I hover over this card, you can see I've got a totally different type of analysis going on. And that's what's loaded in. That's based on my library, my neighborhood analysis that I chose. And the same thing can apply if you just, if you're doing rural properties for the occasional time you do a rural property or a really complex one. Well, hopefully it's occasional for you. It's occasional for me, at least. Then when you're doing those, then you can set up something, maybe you call it complex, and then you analyze data differently for complex properties. And these profiles also exist on the grid. I forgot to show you that. So back on the grid, you can see I have this profile for my grid called Webinar. That's not the profile I normally use. If I want to go to my profile that I normally use, I click that. I switch over to my standard profile, click that. Now here's the profile I normally use for typical reports, this one right here. So, yeah, that's the way it works. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and switch back to the webinar profile. And you can see there's a little bit more filled out on this webinar profile. So there's a few things that Spark does not get information for, like quality, condition, functional utility, and location. Those four. Spark, by default, does not put anything in for those 4 lines. You can set Spark up to put in defaults. So you can see back on my profile, when I use Spark, I don't have Spark load in those lines. Quality, condition, location, and, well, I do have it put in functional utility conforms or conforming. But the other 3, I don't, because I want to make sure that I don't forget and I go and look at those individually. For conforming, I don't worry about that because it's very rare that I have one with any kind of functional utility issues. So on those, I already know that I'm going to go in and change it. But anyway, so that's the way it's set up. But so you can see those lines are blank on my profile, but on the profile for what I do for webinars, I have everything filled in. Location, I have defaults, quality, condition. Okay, so let's go ahead and load all this into an actual report. All you do when you're ready to load everything into your report is you click Export, and then you click Go. Now, I'll go back and show you those. All those checkboxes that you just saw, those were ways for you to kind of customize specifically the way the data is going into your report. Like, do you use letter or legal reports? What kind of charts do you like? What kind of photos do you normally have in your report? Small, medium, or large? At least with a la mode, they give you specific options of small, medium, and large for your photo types. Okay. Now, at this point, what's happened is when I hit export, it took about 15 seconds, and Spark created this file on my computer. All I do is I click it. Now, at this point, since I'm loading this data into an a la mode report, the a la mode data wizard has taken over. So this is an a la mode window now, nothing to do with Spark. So I click Create New Report. Now, 99% of the time, I'm guessing you guys are all going to use, and gals are going to use merge into currently open report, and you just merge it in. You have a couple options here. But I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new report just so you know that this is a totally blank report. So everything you see in this report is something that Spark loaded in, just so you can kind of get an idea of what all it can and cannot load into your report. All right, and Total is in the middle of building that report. It's right here. Here we go. Okay, so now my report is ready. I can click on Forms, and I'm just going to scroll through and basically show you what all Spark can load into your report. You can see what it puts in for your top of page 1, the checkboxes I chose, the low, high, and predominant numbers, some information here, a few of the improvements are loaded in, and then my grid, my top of page 2 numbers, my prior transfer history data. Now, I chose in this particular case to have Spark load this data right into this comment section, but you can also have Spark load all the transfer history information and comments onto a completely separate text addenda. It's actually my preferred method. I forgot that I had it set to load into here for when I was helping an appraiser. They wanted me to show them how this works, so I changed the setting. But I prefer to have these every single prior transfer history comment to go onto a separate text addenda, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute here. But that's the way it works. It checks the boxes, puts it in, loads in the comments. And by the way, if your subject had transferred 2 times in the past 36 months, it would load in all the comments for both of those transfers, not just the most recent one. Okay, so let's scroll through. I got the cost approach loaded in. Now, in the future, when we have allocation and site extraction to help you with getting your opinion of site value, then we'll have a comment up here for the support for opinion of site value. But right now, there's nothing that goes in there. And then we've got comps 4, 5, and 6, comps 7 and 8. And if you remember, we actually, right at the beginning, I chose to load in 3 of those properties into the REO addenda. And so it created the REO addenda, loaded those properties in. It also loads the is on market down here appropriately. And then we've got the 1004MC filled out with the comments we chose to go in. Now, I did change the profile. So when I customized that comment, I didn't save it, and it got rid of it because I showed you the profiles, and so I switched to my other profile, and so it changed that. So that's why the comment might look a little different here. But if I had not made that change, then it would have loaded in the comment like I showed you. And then here are the charts that I wanted it to load in. And I like scatter plots a lot. I do have a bar chart in here because a lot of appraisers like those better. I prefer scatter plots, but I do have that in here for you guys. And by the way, I've been told that these charts don't look super crisp and clear in the webinar and on your computer screen sometimes, and that has to do with the zoom level that you have a la mode set at. But these charts will be nice and crisp and clear in your actual report that goes to your client, even if they don't look like that in the webinar here. Okay. And then if it loads in the photo pages if you need them. And by the way, there is a way in Spark to have it load in front views of the properties. So there's a setting I can flip on to do that. It does not load those in from MLS, though. It uses the Google front view. We do not have access to the MLS front view. And the only reason I would ever recommend using the front view from Google is if you're using, for example, Total for mobile, and you have your mobile device next to you as you're driving in the field. As you're driving up to comp 4, let's say, you can see the picture of the house from Google as you're driving up to it, so you kind of know which one it is. You take your picture, it overwrites the Google view with your own, and you're good to go. I would never recommend it for other situations because you don't want that actual Google view probably going into your report to your client. Okay, so now the last thing I'm going to show you here in the actual report is what we load into your work file. So I'm going to click this work file tab. First, I'm going to start with the property report. These are the properties I loaded into the grid. So I got my subjects, my comps, and those REO listings. This is basically a summary page, and then page 2 is a summary map showing all those properties. Now, starting with page 3 is where kind of the good stuff comes in. So I can actually look at this page, and on this one-page printout, I essentially have every piece of MLS and public records data all in one spot. And you can see that things are highlighted in red when there's a discrepancy between MLS and public records. Just like in Spark, when it highlights it in red, it does it in your work file as well. So I can quickly scroll through here and see any discrepancies, like right here, fireplaces. MLS says 1, public record says none. It also loads in the comments from the agent regarding the property, basically the marketing comments, if you want those. We've got some assessor information right here. Is zoning, if we get that from your public records. The entire prior transfer history, every transfer that we got, and the entire mortgage finance history loaded into here. And then last, it kind of bled into a second page here, is the listing history. So if you upload a listing from MLS, it will load in the listing history as well, because it also loads that into page 1 in that comment section of your regular 1004. And then the second page, I'm sorry, this would actually be page 4. It's 2 little maps of your subject property. So I got one totally zoomed in, showing the building footprint from Google, and then the next one is zoomed out a little bit more, showing a bit more of the surrounding area with the satellite overlay on top of it. And that's basically it. So as I get to the next page, this is basically comp 1, all the exact same information, but for that property, the maps for it. By the way, we also have Google highlight in bright yellow anytime there's a primary traffic artery. So I can quickly, as I'm scrolling through here, see yellow and note that that property abuts to a primary traffic artery. Anyways, it's the same thing as I scroll through here. It's just basically the same thing for every property. Now I'm going to show you the market conditions report. So this is the one that has all of the charts in it and all the market condition information. So I've got my neighborhood 1 unit housing information, everything that was loaded into your report from Spark, any checkboxes you chose when you were in Spark, the comments that it loaded in. And then starting on page 2 is basically every chart and table of data that you chose for Spark to build, not just the ones that went into your report, but all of them. So I can scroll through here and I have all this data here for me to look at if I ever needed to defend myself or explain why I chose something. That's all right here. So that's that for market conditions. And then we've got a farm list here for those of you who use farm lists. This is here. So instead of going into your MLS, printing that page out, loading it in as a PDF, and then attaching it to your report, it's basically right here, and you just click Insert, and it will load that page right into your report. Next, let's look at the cost data report. So this is, because we did the cost approach, it tells me everything that Spark loaded into my cost approach, and then starting here, it's the details of my property and the cost data relative to each of the things that I said this property has. I said it had a covered patio, what quality I called it, the price per square foot we got from dwelling cost, the depreciation, the above grade dwelling details, everything I typed in there, basically all there, and then a breakdown after that of all what the quality things mean, actually in kind of layman's terms, what these different quality ratings mean. So if you ever want to put that in your report for your client, and the same thing with the patio porch quality ratings and the pool quality ratings. Now, I'm not sure if I showed you, here I'll show you in one moment, but first, the calculations PDF. So the calculations PDF, this is basically the 1004MC calculations, and or actually, this is basically all the market conditions calculations, not just the ones for the 1004MC, but it goes through and describes in detail and references Fannie Mae when necessary, explaining exactly how we calculated everything regarding market conditions analysis, including the regression data, how we calculated how much things are going up or down. That's all in here with sample equations and everything. If you ever had to go and recreate, you could do that. And that's that. Now, the one thing I just said I was going to hit on in a second, it's the cost approach. You may have seen it when we were there, but it does load in on page 3 of your report, kind of a brief little what your quality rating actually means goes right here. So I put in 3.5, but then it actually tells you what 3.5 actually means. If you want that in there, it's there. Okay, So that is pretty much it as far as what Spark can do and what it can load into your report. Now, I'm going to do something real quick I haven't done in a while, is I just want to go through and show you sort of how quick and easy it is to use Spark on a day-to-day basis. So I took a long time to go through here and do this. I think we've been doing this for like 45 minutes here, but I'm going to go through and show you how long it should take you on a normal day of using this, or a normal report. So I'm going to click Start Over. All right, so let's see, it's around 3:47. I think it's almost 3:48. So the first thing you do is you choose your effective date. You load in your comps. That was this file right here. It's grabbing the data from public records now. And then once that's loaded in, you load in your subject as well, or you can just click Next. And I'm going to do the same thing as before, and I'm going to take 746 Roca, load that in as my subject. And let's just go ahead and do what we did before as well, and take these and load them in as REO listings. And now we're going to do the cost approach. So I'm going to get the cost data. And we did 3.5. I said it had a covered patio of, oops, sorry about that, of, let's say it's 168 square feet. We'll choose above average. Garage, we'll call it 450. And the quality rating we'll leave the same as the dwelling. With effective age, we'll call it 12. And let's just say it has $10,000 in external depreciation. Get cost data. And I'm going to go ahead and type in my site value. We'll call it 65,000. Now I'm going to go do the 1004MC. That's done. Now I'm going to load in my competing properties, which was this file. And then I'm going to load in this one, which was the big one, as my neighborhood file. That one takes a little bit longer because it's so many more properties. All right. Okay. And now I think we're at around 1.5 minutes. And I can hit export right now and load this all into my report. Or I can take the time and go through and check these boxes by looking at my analyses, I should say. And I'm just going to, I mean, you may take varying amounts of time to do this. Let's just say you look at the analysis, you decide what you want to call it. I'm going to call it stable. Yeah, that seems like it's definitely increasing. Yeah, we'll call it increasing. Sorry, before I wasn't really paying attention, but I am now. We'll call that stable. Definitely increasing. Concessions are increasing. They're prevalent. There are no foreclosures. And that's it. And so now I hit export. And you know what? I'm going to show you the prior transfers. I'm going to put them on the separate text addenda like I talked about, just so you can see what it looks like. And this part, again, takes right around 10 to 15 seconds, depending on how much data you're actually loading in and how much it's building. And now that file is done. It's downloaded to my computer. I just click it to open it. And now at this point, this is the point where I'm loading this into a la mode. So a la mode is taken over. I'm going to click to create a brand new report from scratch. And now we're waiting on a la mode. So essentially, it's 3:50. We started this at 3:47, 3:48 maybe. It's basically taken maybe like 3 minutes to load this data into a report. Let's not jump ahead of ourselves, though. It's not open yet. Okay. Here we go. So it's now in my report and loaded up. So maybe 4 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes it took to load all of the information into my report and fill out all this data. And I wasn't trying to go fast. I think I was going at a regular speed. You might go a little bit slower or a little bit faster. I mean, you can expect to go slower than that the first time, or 1 to 3 times you use it. But after a few times, you should be pretty quick with it. It's pretty basic to use, especially once you have it set up to do things the way you want. And that's it. So maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and you got all the data in your report the way you want it, and also all that data in your work file. And then the last thing before I let you guys go is I wanted to show you the property history page. So this is how I like to do it, and it's that setting I changed right at the end there. So instead of loading the transfer comment right here, it loaded the transfer comment into my property history addenda. So it creates this separate text addenda. It loads in, says subject 36 months prior transfer history, gives you the address, and then the comments related to that property. and then comparable 12 months prior transfer history, all the related data. You got the date, the price, the buyer, the seller, the document number, what type of deed it is, all the way down. You can see this one on Pueblo. It actually had 2 transfers in the past 12 months, so it loaded in both. And that's it. So that's the way it works. I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know you guys are probably really busy, and I'm an appraiser too, so I get that sometimes it's a pain to set aside an hour of time, especially an hour of time, to go and look at something you're not even sure you're going to use. So I really appreciate you taking the time. You can call me, email me with any questions, comments, help setting it up, help you customize it, whatever. I'm happy to do it. And let me just show you how you actually go and get started if you want to. So it's sparkforappraisers.com. This is the website. This is where you went to actually sign up for the webinar. So you've probably been to this page before. And to get started, just click this Get Started button. It's going to take you through the process, walk you through everything. And then this is also where you can go to actually start using Spark. So when you actually want to use it, you can go to the SEM website and just click Log In, and then it will take you right to the Spark website. And Spark is in the a la mode Total Store. You get a free trial there. And by the way, when you go through here, when you go through the Get Started process, it's going to take you to this page I'm about to show you. So you're going to see the pricing. You're going to be able to get the free trial. But I just wanted to show you here. It's in the a la mode Total Store. It's totalstore.alamode.com. You can also get there right through your dashboard. So in a la mode, you can click this dashboard button. This is going to take you to the exact same website that I was just on. So when you wait for this little screen to load up from Total, this is assuming you're using a la mode, by the way, and then you click Total Store Launch. It opens up this website. You just find Spark and click on it. And then here's the Spark page in the Total Store. So a la mode, at least when you're using Spark with a la mode, everything is handled through the Total Store. So the free trials, if you want the free trial, you click here, you get your 12 uses. That basically means you can use it on 12 reports for free. Coverage area, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Look and make sure it's used in it's available in your area. And then pricing. So basically, once you're out of the free trial, you can use Spark either on a monthly basis where you can use it as much as you want every month. It's $49 a month, or you can pay per use. And if you do 16 or fewer reports a month, you would want, this is the least expensive option. It's $47 for 16 reports. That works out to about $2.94 a report. This method, if you just aren't sure you want to spend that much money, this method ends up being $3.50 a report, and you just get 4 reports. But again, if you do 17 or more a month, then this would be the least expensive method at $49 a month. Okay, I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks again, and feel free to contact us with any questions. That Spark for Appraisers website, that's my phone number right there, and that's the email address. Give us a call. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.